Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with jazz guitarist and composer Nick Grondin. He talked to the show about his newest 2019 CD, A View of Earth. So he's originally from a town in New Hampshire, and these days he is pursuing a doctorate of musical arts degree in jazz performance from the New England Conservatory in Boston, studying with the great Jerry Bergonzi, Frank Carlberg, and having masterclasses with Dave Holland, John Hollenbeck, and Jim McNeely. He studied in Paris and St. Paul, Minnesota, and is an experienced performer and award-winning composer, performing throughout the United States and Europe, and he performs regularly in both Boston and New York. He's got great stories, so you can hear them all here. So dig this interview, my friends.
Okay, Nick, thanks for taking a minute out for Neon Jazz, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate your efforts in helping musicians get the word out. We need more people like you.
Man, it's my pleasure. Absolutely. So let's talk about your latest 2019 CD, A View of Earth. Talk to me about what your aim with this project was, or your artistic vision, per se.
That's a great question. I started the group with some friends who I met at school at the New England Conservatory when I was there, and we just started creating this music together. I brought in my compositions, and then we crafted them together, and they evolved over several years. And thankfully, okay, I would say that maybe I brought the main vision, but through this revision process, this evolution, the contributions of the other musicians, they started to take a form of their own, if that makes sense. Overall, the things that I aim to do in my compositions are have clear melodies, interesting platforms for improvisation that are related to the song, and also give a sense of direction and build. A lot of the songs do build and feel like they have kind of a satisfying moment, maybe a climax, and then a nice tying up together at the end. That's a classic kind of form of a piece, but it certainly does work well. Like orchestrationally, it's not a big band, although I do have a background in writing for big band as well. My first album, Songteller, was big band, so I was kind of coming with that sonic idea of all those colors, but then with the smaller group, using piano and keys and Aubrey Johnson on female voice, and I also sing a little bit, and saxophone and trumpet, and of course guitar and all the many sounds a guitar can do. We were able to get a lot of really cool sounds to capture that cool orchestrational effect, like a big band.
So let's go back to the beginning of how all of this began. Where'd you grow up?
Hey, great question. In beautiful state of New Hampshire, not far from Boston, actually the southern part of New Hampshire. It's called Lee, close to Portsmouth. Lovely area, and had music. Well, my father was a musician and a guitar player. He was a big influence on, well, I suppose the direction of my life, but also, instrumentally, the kind of music that I listened to, which was rock and blues and classic rock, you might say. I spent a lot of time with the blues growing up, and that led to jazz. And plus I had some good, teachers in school who kind of started to show me, like, jazz and listening to jazz, Herbie Hancock and John Scofield and people like that. And then that started leading me towards reaching farther back, classic jazz musicians, eventually developing my own compositions and my own voice, within all that material.
So prior to coming to Boston to the New School, you had some time at the EDIM school in Paris.
Oh, yeah.
And and then you got your bachelor's from
McAllister
St. Paul.
In the Midwest.
Yes, exactly. So talk to me a little bit about this journey to now. Like, how did these educational fortresses help you? What'd you learn, and what led you to right now?
Wow. Thank you for reading my bio. I appreciate that. And yeah, it has been a journey. So, high school, got everything started, and then I went to McAllister. But it's a small school, but it has lots of different programs, including music. I thought I was going to be a physics major, so I wanted a place to do physics and music, and that was all going well. And I had some really supportive teachers who really encouraged me to kind of pursue these directions and write for bands. And then the third year of undergrad, I actually went to live in Paris, and through the study abroad program that the college helped me find. And that was kind of a life-changing experience. I studied some French, so I could kind of get my foot in the door, but it was also an interesting transition to do all classes and everything in French. In Paris, there's like a different jazz scene. There's a lot of good music going on there that doesn't really come across the pond that much. There's music from Africa, North Africa, West Africa, Middle East, right? Vietnam. There's former French colonies, plus Mauritius and Reunion Island, and so there's a lot of cool influences over there. And I heard a lot of great music, and I studied at this other jazz school called the CIM, C-I-M, which is the oldest jazz school in Paris. And that changed my life. I really just enjoyed 3 or 4 concerts a week. Just so much stuff, and it was really inspiring. So I came back to McAllister and finished that, and then applied to the New England Conservatory up in Boston, and maybe that's why I'm still here. And that led me to develop even more, you might say.
One of the parts of the real education is getting on stage with seasoned veterans and legends and whatnot. And Boston, you played with Bob Moses, Dave Holland, Joshua Redman.
Yes.
So my question is, what do you learn from people like that, like either by osmosis or directly that's stuck with you as a musician?
Man, that's a great question. Well, I actually studied with Bob Moses, so we developed a relationship. And he's a very demanding teacher. He's not an easy teacher, but I have to say he's been one of the most valuable teachers on my instrument. I mean, he plays the drums, of course, but he has a good sense of how to make good music. And so he's been encouraging and demanding, you might say, at the same time. And yeah, there is some osmosis going on there too, because that guy grooves like no other human. I mean, there's just something that he's got that I wanted to try to absorb, and I think it's helped. I actually think it's helped. And then with Joshua Redman, I was a teaching fellow at Harvard in this jazz improvisation class, and Joshua Redman was a guest artist. He came and did his masterclass in class, and man, I had such a pleasure playing with him, which was a little intimidating, but he's the most humble guy, the nicest guy, and we had a really nice time playing together. That was a beautiful thing, I have to say.
You have been lucky in your time up to now to get awards, and you've been recognized. And my question is, I don't want to know what your favorite award is. That's never a fair question.
No.
What award did you get that just surprised you? It was something you didn't see coming, something that just kind of hit you in a particular way.
Well, again, thanks for noticing. So when I was, again at the New England Conservatory, when I was first writing music and big band music, I submitted one of my pieces just kind of on a whim to the Downbeat Student Music Awards, and it won the award for Best Composition of the Year of all the students, and I'm sure there were some amazing compositions, and it came totally out of the blue. I was really not expecting to get anything, especially on that level, and then somebody called me up and said, hey, you're in Downbeat, and that was such an honor because, to get sort of recognition from an establishment, right, to say, okay, we're doing something right, to get that encouragement. Everybody needs some, and so that led me to do more and to apply for some of the ASCAP Young Composer awards, which I recommend any composer under 30 take advantage of, because they've helped in the recognition and going to meet people and be a part of that scene a little bit. It's really, I have been lucky, but you also have to put yourself out there, right? If you don't apply, so you have to kind of get that organizational step together to get your music out there as well.
What was one of the first live jazz shows you ever saw that really blew your doors down?
I'm going to go back to Clark Terry, the jazz trumpet player, also from Midwest, I believe, and he came to the University of New Hampshire, where they have a jazz festival every year called the Clark Terry Jazz Festival. And he would play every year with different bands. Let's see, I saw him play with Ray Brown, and that was a great concert, just in Durham at one town over. And I was like, okay, I'm starting to get this now, like what jazz can be. And just recordings are beautiful. And I hope people, keep enjoying recordings. But the live experience is a really special thing because you feel this great sense of community. And it's like, wow, the performers know what they're doing. They're creating this energy with the crowd, and then we give it back to them. And that was just a beautiful thing to see how you could create something in real time like that. And so I'm still trying to do that. That's still one of the goals of my music as well, you might say.
So why do you love jazz?
Oh, man, that is a great question. I love what you can do with it sonically, all the different things that you can do with harmony, melody, rhythm, orchestration, and just creating, through either instrumental music or vocal music. You can really explore sounds that are very flexible. Jazz really means a lot of different things. I see it as a big family of music, right? That there's a core tradition, but then it's borrowing from all these different branches, and you can go in so many different directions and still be, in a way, under this umbrella. And I try to integrate my early influences, blues and rock, and in a way that kind of shapes my voice that comes under this umbrella, you might say.
Everything's going to come down to this. This is my final question. Everyone has a version or a perception or interpretation of you, your family, your friends, your fans, colleagues.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know yourself best. Who do you think you are?
Oh, man, that is a good question. Well, I'm somebody trying to communicate what I love about music, both, through my playing, through my recording, through the way I talk about my music, and also the way I teach music, because, I teach at Berklee College of Music, and I work with a lot of students, and I'm grateful that I get to talk about music really in depth, and I just try and focus on what I think is important in music, and so far people seem to relate to that. If you communicate it clearly, they seem to go with you, and I hope to continue to do that.
Beautiful. That's a great answer. That's a great way to wrap everything up. Hey, thank you very much for taking time out. Good luck with the View of Earth. Good luck with your career, and I appreciate it.
I appreciate you, Joe, very much, and I look forward to hopefully working with you again in the future.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest cats in Boston, New York, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Nick for his time, music, and stories. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com. And for everything Neon Jazz, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.